Welcome, viewers, listeners, to your weekly dose of everything DC, the DC Comics News podcast. This is episode 184. I'm Steve, and with me is my brother from another mother, the always awesome Mr. Brad Felicki. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm great. Always nice to be.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Always nice to be on the airwaves with you, because you are, like I said, my bro from an Omo. And we've got some great news this week, some weird news this week, and everything in between. Let's start with the big screen stories. And our first movie news piece is about the Blue Beetle movie, which has the second best office holdings since Birds of Prey and the fourth best overall out of all the DCU movies, which is pretty decent news, right?
I think it is. I think this is a good sign that this film is going to have legs beyond even what it does in the box office. I have a feeling that it's going to be one of those that people are really going to watch when it starts to stream, and that they're going to watch again and again. It's going to be something that they're going to want to share with their family, with their kids, whatever it may be. And that's a really good sign. I think it really points to the fact that this film is going to kind of, not a cult classic, but it's going to be one of those films that we talk about. Like, man, people didn't pay attention when it came out in the theaters, but it became this hit. And it would be funny to see. It would be a real kind of a sweet revenge if it does so well later that it gets re-released in theaters, because I really enjoyed it.
And that's high praise indeed. If Brad liked it, people pay attention, because Brad is the dude. And I've got to say, maybe it's like you said, there seems to be like this thing with amazing films that start with the letter B that don't do well in theaters but do become like classics on VHS and then DVD and Blu-ray and download. Like Blues Brothers was a total flop in theaters, and it's, for me, one of the greatest films ever made. Same with Blade Runner. It did not do well in theaters, but it has become a cult classic.
Yeah.
I think Blue Beetle could follow suit, and we discussed it a few weeks back with the Latino side of things, the young teenage hero, the drama of family, and everything that goes with that, and then adding superpowers in. It's just a fascinating concept for a film, and I haven't seen it as yet, but I really want to. I love the character and I love the comics.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you think of it when you do get to see it.
But I'm unapologetically loved virtually everything DC's put out in recent years. The only two DC films I don't like are Superman 4 and Catwoman. The rest I really like. And I don't think anyone could really defend either of those two films. So,
it'd be hard.
It'd be difficult. But a film I can also defend, which sadly, again, people are knocking, is The Flash. But it seems that the George Clooney ending we got, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought that was great, and a great way to close that episode of the DCU and start a new one, because all the old Batmans are gone. We're getting a new one. It wasn't the original, and we would have had a different ending, which has been leaked. What do you make of this story?
Yeah, I think this is a kind of a ploy to get more people to watch it, and this is just another thing that's just sad to me. I don't understand why people aren't watching this in streaming. I just don't get it. This is something that I hope, kind of like Blue Beetle, gets a second life. I think it deserves it too. So we'll see. But yeah, I think this was kind of released so that it would get people curious to watch it who may not have gotten a chance to see it yet.
It's really weird, because the reports I'm seeing is that streaming and downloads of the film have been really, really encouraging and better than a lot of films. Yeah. It didn't do well in theaters, but Flash did really well on streaming and downloads.
That's interesting, because I heard, I'm glad that you tell me that, because I have heard that it wasn't doing well on streaming, that people weren't watching it. But that's really good to know. Yeah.
And in Europe, it's smashing records, apparently, for downloads and streaming. So,
good.
I think it's just the cynical fans, maybe in the US, that are so anti-DC and anti anything that isn't Zack Snyder. Mm-hmm. I'm Zack Snyder's biggest fan. I adore everything he's done, but I will not center all my hopes of the DC universe around him. Right. There are hugely talented storytellers, directors, and writers out there other than Zack Snyder.
And what bugs me about that whole thing is there was a whole bunch of detractors from Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
when
When he
Man
was
of
making
Steel
the
came
films, everyone
out. And
hated
so
him.
I
Yeah.
don't get now everybody loves it. Like it's absolutely infuriating.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, I kind of get it because when the Snyder Cut did come out, it was so far superior to what we got originally that people thought, "Oh, actually, maybe this guy's brilliant after all." And those pre-haters just grew up. But now they've become Snyder cultists, and I don't know what's worse.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you can't win.
but on that tone, obviously, we got the Snyder Cut, and we've talked about it for months, if not years. That the David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad is a completely different film. Also, I mean, I've yet to see a director's cut that isn't far superior to the theatrical release. But this latest report and this interview with David said that that film broke him and tainted his view of Hollywood, and I can understand that. What did you think?
I agree with the poor guy, and that just makes me want to see him vindicated and get to see the Ayer cut released.
Absolutely.
It's just, sometimes Warner Brothers just doesn't know what they're doing, and I think that has been evident in some choices they've made. I don't have to rehash the whole Batgirl cancellation, things like that. But
don't get me started on Batgirl.
It's just, this just makes me more excited or hopeful that we'll get the Ayer cut, and I'll be really interested in seeing it and seeing, at the end of the day, what his vision was, especially if it was so mangled, because critics and audiences really didn't like Suicide Squad. So I think he deserves a chance to say, hey, this is what I wanted, not what the studio wanted. And not that I'm holding my breath, but maybe Warner Brothers would actually learn something, from that. So yeah, we'll see. But it just makes me more excited for the Ayer cut if we ever get to see it.
Fingers crossed. I mean, the fact that James Gunn said it will get its time in the Suns is obviously good news. But again, I didn't hate the original cut of Suicide Squad that we got. In fact, my wife's probably favorite two DC movies are the two Suicide Squad films. She loves them to pieces.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, and I think we've talked about this before a few times. Like, I didn't mind Jared Leto's Joker really that much either. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see what he would do. And that was one of my favorite parts of the Snyder cut, was the nightmare sequence at the end. But yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Visually, Leto didn't work, but as the character playing the role, I personally thought he was great. But that's the thing with anything art; it's subjective. People love it or hate it for their own reasons. But it's the fans that don't accept anyone else's opinions but their own that let the side down. Yeah. Because if you love something I hate, hey, I'm really glad you enjoyed it and got something out of it. I don't say that you're wrong. But hey, that's us. We're just nicer people, I guess, Brad.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
The dynamic DC
no toxic
duo.
fandom here. Yep.
None whatsoever. No, we're anti-toxic.
Mm-hmm.
We're good for you, like comics. So yeah, fingers crossed we will get to see the film, and guns behind it. So I will keep my fingers crossed that one day it will happen. Now, something I'm really hoping does happen, especially the fact that the actor has now stated that he has spoken with James Gunn. Giancarlo Esposito, one of my favorite character actors of recent years, Breaking Bad, he absolutely killed it. The Star Wars films, the Star Wars TV show, The Mandalorian. He's in talks, and this time he's saying he doesn't want to be a villain. He wants to be a good guy. I'm invested. I'm in. What about you?
Yeah, but I wanted to be a good guy, but there's something in the back of my mind that keeps saying Luther.
I said the same thing.
So maybe, but part of me is like he plays villains all the time. So it would kind of be nice to see that flipped on its head a little bit. But man, I think he would make a great Lex Luthor. Yeah, but
I can't argue with that.
And who knows what James Gunn has in store? Maybe he'd be a Mr. Terrific or something. I don't know, because he's kind of stated that he wants those characters to be brought in. So I don't know. But I personally would love to see him play Lex Luthor. I think he'd play an incredible Lex.
See, the hive mind once again. I thought I saw, especially after seeing him in The Mandalorian, he makes such a great, cool, calm, collected, intelligent villain.
And that's what we need.
Luther would have fitted him to a T. Obviously, we've had the casting news. We've got a Mr. Terrific for Superman Legacy. But I was racking my brains about heroic characters he could also play, and I'm thinking Amazing Man, a character that's got a history and a background with the Justice Society, a little bit older, a little bit more mature. One of those types of characters again would be incredible. And Gunn does seem to have this love for these legacy characters. The fact he's bringing back the Creature Commandos and including the Terrifics in the new Superman film. So I just think that a character actor that strong needs to be in a DC movie. He'll give it credibility. He'll give it gravitas. And it will get fans of his invested in seeing the films too. So let's hope that comes to fruition. Now, Batman Day is coming. My favorite day of the year. Yes, it's up there with Christmas and Halloween and all the holidays. Batman Day is coming. We're getting a fantastic event in the UK called Batman Unmasked, which my team and I will be attending and reporting on. But the Dark Knight trilogy will be hitting theaters, at least in the US, to celebrate. Great news, right?
Oh, yeah, great news. There's part of me that wants, I've seen all the films pretty much numerous times, but I still think it would be cool to, once again, and seen them in the big screen, so it would be cool to see them again, especially for Batman Day. That would be such a fun thing to share with fans. I think that's September 16th, so that's coming up. So yeah, I think it'd be a fun time. Get some snacks and get comfy and just do the whole trilogy.
Hey, if they don't get released in theaters over here, I've got my Blu-ray box set. I'll break those out, break out the popcorn, break out the cola, and away we go. Yeah, absolutely. They are the most successful Batman films. There's no doubt about it. Whether they're the best or the worst or whatever else is subjective. That's down to everyone else's opinion. I will admit they're not my absolute favourites because I do think they're grounded, great movies. I don't think they're fantastic comic book movies or outstanding Batman movies, but they are brilliant films. They're brilliant pieces of cinema. So them getting a theatrical release and possibly gaining new fans is just a brilliant thing all round. I'm really happy about it. So, yeah, grand. You lucky people in the US. But hey, in the UK, we've got Batman Unmasked, which will include Heath Ledger's costumes, which will include Joaquin Phoenix's costumes, 2 Bat-cycles, and a ton of other stuff from the films and from the comics too. So I'll let you know when that goes live, sir. Now, that's cinema, and so's Aquaman 2. And it's already broken records by having the longest time between its original trailer release and the film itself coming out. And yes, it does seem like absolutely forever since the first trailer and since we announced this movie, right?
Yeah, man, I've been waiting for this, and I kept thinking, I remember talking to friends, like, when are they going to release this trailer? The time is ticking. And, when I first saw the headline, I was thinking, oh, maybe it broke records of how many people watched it, but not quite. It was, the closest release or closest trailer release to the actual release of the movie. But the trailer looks good. I really enjoyed all the Black Manta footage. He seems like he's going to be a really strong villain this time out. And, and Jason Momoa is still loving the character. You can tell he's loving being there, and that's a lot of fun. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited, but I wish we would have seen this sooner. But hey, I'm happy for any footage we get. And
hopefully, that just means we feel like we're waiting less time for the actual film because Aquaman 2. I mean, it was announced virtually the second the first movie came out, and it feels like decades. I mean, I know it's only been a few years, but it feels like forever since the first Aquaman. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. Yes, the record's a bit of an odd one, but the costumes look good, which is your purview, your domain, and your speciality.
Yeah, the costume, yes. I should mention that. Thank you for bringing that up. The costumes do look good. That more traditional Aquaman costume that we saw in the first one really works. Sometimes
it looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, and all those costumes that could translate the hardest. That might be the hardest to make look good, but man, they did it. They get props for that alone. And Black Manta always had such a cool classic look, and they're sticking with that. So yeah, I'm definitely happy with the character designs and the looks of the costumes.
It's brilliant, because I'm glad you brought it up, because I agree. That classic Aquaman costume, if you think back to things like the Super Friends, that bright orange, bright green would not work on screen.
It works good on the page, but the screen, that would be a hard sell.
So changing that into a coppery gold and an ocean green, particularly with Momoa's skin tone and the way he looks and his whole surfer attitude, it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So brilliant design work and great work all around from James Wan and the team. And I'm hoping he keeps that whole action vibe, Indiana Jones vibe, horror vibe mix along with the superheroics. So it could be a fantastic sequel.
And they keep coming back to this is war. So I'm going to be excited to see what this war is and how that's going to. An underwater war will look on screen will be really cool. Yeah.
And the whole comments of it being a standalone universe outside of the DCU, but still a part of it. I love that, because Aquaman you can watch completely by itself and not think of anything else. And that was one of its greatest strengths, I think.
And I think, going back, you haven't seen it yet, but going back to Blue Beetle for a second, that turned out to be one of the film's strengths, I think. So I think we might see the same with Aquaman too.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, bro. Let's keep our fingers crossed. So let's leave the oceans and the world of cinema for a moment and talk TV. Now, again, in the UK, we haven't had the joy of seeing My Adventures of Superman Season 1 as yet, but the announcement that Season 2 is definitely happening, it's imminent, and the producers saying that it will blow people's minds. Exciting isn't even the word, is it?
No, let's see what they got. I think this is a really interesting take on the Superman mythos, and I just listened to an audiobook on the biography of Superman, a book that came out a few years ago, but it made me wish that it was slightly newer. They could update it. And I was thinking about things like My Adventures with Superman and Superman Smashes the Klan and all those really cool new Superman stories we're getting since then. And I think that this is another one of Superman is such a cool character, because you can get all these takes and all these different iterations of the character, and this is a really fun, wholesome take and kind of modern with the modern look of everything. And and there's so many characters that you can draw from. So I'm curious what characters they're going to bring in. So if they say it's going to blow my mind, I say, all right, let's see what you got. I'm looking forward to it. I'm there for it. So we'll see.
From what I've already heard from Season 1, the fact that it's a vintage Superman, it's a figure of hope, someone to aspire towards knowing and being, and that's what Superman should always be. I mean, let's remember, to all the people that say, he's boring, he's overpowered, this, that, and the other. Yes, I am a self-confessed Batman fan. I like the grounded, more inverted commas realistic heroes. But let's turn this around here. This is a man with the power of the gods. This is a man who is virtually indestructible. This is a man who could fly around the world, who could destroy you from orbit with his heat vision. He has power that's awesome. But what does he do with that power? He uses it to help others. He's literally making the ultimate sacrifice. He could rule the world and never do a thing again in his life, and no one could stop him. But instead, he helps the everyman. He helps the little guy. He pulls kittens out of trees, for goodness sake. That's a hero. Someone who uses his power for others is a true hero. And think of Superman that way, and what other hero can touch him?
And, that's why people are still Superman fans to this day. They enjoy the subtext. And it's the same way with Batman. That's why Batman is still so popular. And it's fun to see how different writers play with that subtext and what they bring out of it. And it's just, this show it's just fun to watch them interpret. And you're right, there's such a purity to Superman, and it's fun to watch. It doesn't necessarily work as a dark character all the time, and it's kind of fun to see these versions where it is that kind of bright And I use the term Big Blue Boy Scout as not to take away, but to add to him in this case.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like you said, Batman and Superman are the ones that everything else stemmed from. And the psychology behind the two characters is unquestionable. The fact that Superman is, to all intents and purposes, an immigrant, someone who's come to this world, not just to this US, to this world, to find his way and make his life. And that is an eternal story that people like you and I, the children of immigrants, can really understand and get behind. And Batman is a figure of terror and fear and darkness, but he's a protector. And his greatest enemy is a figure of mirth and laughter and joy, and yet he's a psychotic murderer. The levels of storytelling behind these characters is fantastic. And that's why My Adventures with Superman works. It's getting the essence of Superman and putting it back out there for people to enjoy. So long may it continue.
Yep.
So that's definitely coming back. But sadly, the Arrowverse seems to be no more. And we seem to have seen that a deleted scene from Flash episode 9, season 9, has a bit which is removed where Barry's discussing giving up his identity. Now, I think because in the UK we have far fewer ads in our programming, that wasn't cut in the UK version, because that's the scene I remember seeing on TV. I might be mistaken, but I believe that's what we got. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, I wish I could take away more from it, but I'm a little bit behind on the Flash. I watched the scene; it seems fine. I don't know if it necessarily seems necessary, so maybe I could see why it was cut. But I just really need to catch up on the Flash. But where there's so many seasons, I'm working my way through it. I just finished the Superman and Lois most recent season, so now I can move around in the Arrowverse a little bit. And I just, even if it's a scene that's not necessarily important, I still love the chemistry of the actors in the show. You can tell that they get along. It was such a family, and that is always makes a show work. That's why people miss Firefly. It was just because those actors had chemistry, and you could tell they loved working together, and they had a great time being there making the show. Same way with the Flash. So even if the scene isn't essential, it's still fun to watch.
That's what made the whole Arrowverse great for me, is the fact that, yes, it was superheroes, yes, it was action and adventure, but the family aspect, the soap opera aspect of it was really terrific. And it'll be missed. But from what I can make out in the US broadcast version, well, basically it's a Groundhog Day type episode where they're stuck in a time loop. And Barry wants to gain their trust, and he says the best way to do that is to tell them who he is and then deal with the ramifications later. Again, I'm sure that's exactly what we got in the UK version, but that was cut in the US due to time constraints. I don't know what else. And he just carried on working with them to solve the issue of the time loop. So it's not essential to the plot, but again, a fascinating change as to why they'd actually do that. So we've talked about the screen, actors, live action, animation. Let's talk about the thing we love more than anything in the world, comics. And Philip Kennedy Johnson has become one of my absolute favourite writers. He's doing great things 3 issues in with the new Incredible Hulk series for Marvel, but his Superman stories of recent years have been fantastic. His last God's Fantasy comic book for DC was incredible, and now he's talking about his Superman inspiration, and it's a great article. What did you make of it?
He seems like a great guy. I saw him on some DC panels in San Diego, and I was talking about the whole purity of the Superman character. He really gets that. He kept repeating something over and over again in those panels where he said, Superman is my religion. And Wonderful. He gets the character. And the idea that he says, it's like music is the inspiration. And that he thinks of Thelonious Monk, and Thelonious Monk said, stick with the melody. And I think when it comes to comics or these characters, the melody is what drives the character, the morality, what makes him tick. And with Superman, that is that purity, that good heart, no matter what. And I think when he says the whole stick to the melody, I think he really gets it. He's really tuned into why those characters, the DC characters, not to lose my train of thought, but like Zack Snyder got it when he said, well, DC characters are like gods. It's not like the Marvel with the world outside your window. And I think that he's Kennedy Johnson is tuned into that too. And that's when that, those are the stories that get studied in college courses. That's 100%. Where you get that's where you get your Kingdom Comes, your Dark Knight Returns, for instance, or all those really landmark DC superhero stories that are kind of that still remain those pieces of, like we always say, literature. And I think that he really gets that and is tuned into that. So I'm really going to enjoy what he does with the character, because when you say something like that, you really get it.
He's a terrific writer, and if he comes across as a great person as well, that just makes me happy, because we've said it before, most comics creators tend to be really nice people. Yeah. And we mentioned it with My Adventures with Superman. The people who are making these shows, making these comic books, get the character, and more importantly, love the character and what he stands for. And Superman is one of those hugely misunderstood characters for me. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't always love him. But the second I saw Superman, the original movie with Christopher Reeve in 1978 as an 8-year-old, changed my life, changed me completely, the way I look at things. And yes, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel was a little bit darker, but the hero was still there. He was still the same guy that could do so much, but didn't. The whole scene where he's getting bullied in the cafe and his only revenge is wrecking the guy's truck, when you just really wanted him to slap the guy. Yeah, that's Superman. Restraint, compassion, heroism, and Philip Kennedy Johnson. Good on you, sir. You get that, and I will read your Superman comics for as long as you're writing them.
I'm glad to see his name kind of getting up there, and with your Toms and your Ram V's and Joshua Williams, all those DC big hitters that are working right now.
I mean, the fact he's writing Superman tells you something.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
DC's flagship character, along with Batman and Wonder Woman. That says everything. And he's been writing it for a good few years now. Yep. Yeah. So, and that's just sitting back and doing his thing and not asking for it. That's very Superman-like in a way. So he's the perfect choice. Couldn't agree more, brother. Now, talking about perfect choices, and a writer I know that you're a big fan of, as am I, and the fact that Tom King seems to be back in Batman's world quite firmly after Batman Catwoman and then Batman Killing Time, the origin of the Batman Joker relationship in the new Brave and the Bold. He seems to be wanting to grasp the street level Batman and get away from the massive crime wars and City of Banes type stories. And for me, that's King's forte. He's a wonderful character writer. So what do you make of this story?
I get where he's coming from, but still, maybe I'm nuts, but during the pandemic, I reread the entire Tom King run. It felt, it's terrific, but it felt a little bit grounded to me, despite all the wars and all the characters. His kind of take on it felt grounded to me. So to hear him come and say that kind of surprised me. But I think he's going to have a chance to go that route with this new Penguin series. So when he says that, it's like, well, now what's he going to do with the Penguin to keep that grounded? And we've talked about this before. I think Penguin is a very underrated character that doesn't get the respect that he deserves. So I'd like to see it in Tom King to really have that kind of bringing the character's reputation up, and maybe those grounded stories are just what it needs. So. Yeah, I think we said this too on the podcast, is that in Tom we trust. So I get I'll let him do what he does, because he's so good. So, just let us see what you got.
Let the artist make his art. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But we've talked about Tom King a lot, because we're both great fans of his work. But have you read Penguin 1?
I have not yet.
Try and pick up the Zero issue first, which collects
Yeah,
the
that's what I
backup
wanted to
stories
too.
from
That's why I
Batman.
haven't, because I haven't been able to find the Zero issue yet. But
brilliantly, number one, you can read by itself. But if you read the Zero issue first, it does give it a little bit more depth.
Yeah, and I wanted that refresher because I know that the Zero is that reprinting of certain stories that came earlier, but that's such a really cool condensed way to refresh my memory on everything.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah, I do want to read that.
I've got access to all the box files. I'll get that to you today
nice.
when we finish recording.
Cool.
It's really good. Penguin number 1 is one of my favorite number 1 issues in a long time.
Nice. I had a feeling that it was going to surprise people. I had kind of had high hopes.
Well, the guy who's reviewing it for us, hey Philip, for Dark Knight News, said Penguin, really? And then he read the Zero issue and he read Zero and he said, Steve, thanks for giving me this. This is fantastic.
Good.
That should say it all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knew? A Penguin series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who knew that Kevin Smith would be selling a whole bunch of insanely awesome original comic book art? Oh, if only we were rich, Brad.
I love the idea that he had some Daredevil Frank Miller work and some of the Green Arrow work. But you know me, and you know what got me when I read one word in that article, and that was preacher. To have some of Steve Dillon's work, oh my God, that would just makes my heart skip a beat. Because preacher almost means as much to me as Sandman, and that's saying
highest praise indeed.
So yeah. I would love to get my hands on that preacher art. And God bless you, Kevin Smith. You really help support the nerd community, if you will, and it's going to go to a good cause. So I hope that they make a lot of money. But yeah, that preacher is what got me.
For me, it's everything. All of them. Frank Miller art, sold.
Oh, yeah.
Preacher art, sold. Matt Wagner's covers to Green Arrow. Those, for me, are some of my favorite comics covers of all time. And are they not? Is that not Quiver then? Is that not the 12-issue series that Kevin actually wrote?
That's what I thought. That's what I took away from it. Yeah,
So he's got those covers directly from his friend and co-creator on that series, which to me is still one of the best Green Arrow stories ever. Quiver is fantastic.
And I still say that Batman Cacophony is one of the most underrated Batman stories. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Loved it.
Onomatopoeia, what a villain.
Yep.
What a baddie. So, oh man, if I get a lottery win, I'm going to bid on one of those. If it's just one Frank Miller page, and it doesn't say which one, but that issue. I think
181 that it's hit. That's crazy to me. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that issue I've pulled out, and I'd happily own any page from that comic.
Oh, yeah.
Happily own any page from that. Even the weakest pages is wonderful. So, people who are going to that auction are in for a treat and hopefully in for a bargain. But I see the prices getting to the upper echelons on this one.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Especially they know it was part of Kevin Smith. And I mean, it's.
Well, the fact he signed a couple of them extra as well, that's going to add to the value because he's probably in comics now that we've lost Stan Lee. Who's more recognizable than Kevin Smith?
Yeah.
Very few people, to my mind. So, yeah, awesome. Absolutely awesome. So that's it. That's all our stories for this week for episode 184 of the DC Comics News podcast. But hey,
closer and closer to 200.
Yes, 16 episodes to go. So, and we're getting close to episode 100 of I Am the Night as well, which hopefully you'll be joining us for. And with the sad passing of Arlene Sorkin, the fact that we're reviewing Mad Love makes it even more special and poignant. So keep an ear out for that, guys. But what else have you been watching, reading, enjoying in the world of DC since last we spoke?
I have been reading the One Bad Day villain one-shots are really good. I Just earlier today, I finished the Two-Face one. That was really good. The Catwoman one was really good. The Penguin one was great. So yeah, I've been reading those, and actually later tonight I'm going to do a reread of Superman 4 tomorrow.
Awesome.
Because of that Superman biography, and I wish I had the title and the author, but it was really good, and he talked about that series a lot in it. So I need to revisit that. So that's going to be my next bit of DC, and I really enjoyed the first volume of G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy.
Oh, it's brilliant!
It was really, really good. Yeah. So that's the DC stuff that I've been reading, and of course I saw Blue Beetle, which I really enjoyed. So, what about you?
G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy is terrific. I mean, the fact that it was slated to be a 6-issue mini, it was so good that it got extended to a 12-issue, and now it's ongoing. It's ongoing now. It's hopefully never going to end. Terrific writer, lovely human being, brilliant. As for myself, nostalgia hit me. Obviously, I moved home and office recently, and because my new property doesn't have a massive loft to put all my long boxes in, they're all sitting in my office. So all my comics are easily to hand. Right. So I've started rereading all of the Batman Adventures from issue 1, because I've got every issue of every volume. Batman Adventures, Gotham Adventures, Batman and Robin Adventures, Batman Adventures Volume 2, Batman Beyond. I've got them all. So I've started rereading those, and particularly after losing Kevin Conroy last year and losing Arlene this week, it's bittersweet. Really bittersweet. Yeah. And thankfully, Sky in the UK got the 3-part Superpowers DC documentary. Oh yeah, which is fantastic.
You definitely check that out. It was really good. The people that they got to be interviewed is pretty much unreal. Everybody.
I watched all 3 back to back.
Yeah. So you did watch it? Yeah. It's so good.
Watched all 3 back to back. So that's what I've been doing, and now I've got so many comics to hand, I'm going to be reading a lot more stuff. Yeah. So that's it. That's a wrap on episode 184. And until you see us again, Brad, let our viewers and listeners know where they can hear your voice and read your words.
You can read my news reviews, DC Comics News, and occasionally on Mark with the Movie blog, which is our editor Josh's website. And I'm going to say it every week. Hopefully we'll get back to recording Mad Love, the Harley Quinn animated series podcast, and the occasional episode of I Am the Night, which I really enjoy being part of. So I'm always down to be part of that podcast as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at FlickyB1. And where can people find you?
Wonderful. You can find me just by going to Google, typing in Steve J. Ray or Fantastic Universes, or even Steve J. Ray's Fantastic Universes to take you to DC Comics News, Dark Knight News, and Fantastic Universes, where I do a lot of damage, writing reviews, conducting interviews, and generally nerding out with some wonderful people. You can catch DC Comics News and Dark Knight News and Fantastic Universes on X, at DC Comics News, at DK Newscom, and at Fan Universes. This wonderful show.
Oh, did I say Twitter? Oops.
Yes. Well,
and it'll always be Twitter to me.
On Twitter, we used to tweet. On X, do we simply excrete?
Yeah.
Who knows? The guy who owns it's full of stuff. DC Comics News, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well, so you can see these heroic faces in all their HD glory. But until you do, always remember to
read
more comics. We shall return.
Have a good week.